The following program is intended for mature audiences.
A democratic republic of sports. The Sportsocracy with ESPN Asheville hosts Tank Spencer and Jeremy Greene.
And welcome back into the Sportsocracy. I'm Tank Spencer. Jeremy Greene's alongside, and we are in the Ingles studio. Low prices, love the savings. Ingles-markets.com. The Cleveland Browns 2022 post-Senior Bowl 7 round mock draft is here. It's time to believe again, Cleveland fans. I mean, offseason is when we build these guys up, and hopefully they won't let you down this year.
Yeah, the only problem is that Baker Mayfield just became markedly more expensive. And he's not any better. If anything, he's worse than he was before.
Well, they do have money to spend, and they got plenty of capital in the draft, so let's see what they can do with it. With the 13th overall pick, get the Cleveland Browns adding Garrett Wilson, a wide receiver out of Ohio State.
Here's the thing. You have to add a weapon for Baker Mayfield. You cannot go back into this season with Donovan Peoples-Jones and Jarvis Landry and a bunch of dudes.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Schwartz, he's really fast. Congratulations. He runs a route about as well as I do. So you need somebody that can consistently get open on the outside. Garrett Wilson's one of the best route runners in this draft. Incredibly fast. The thing that there's two things that make me nervous about Garrett Wilson. One, he is incredibly slight. He's about $190, and I think to play the way he does in the NFL, he's going to have to get a little bit bigger. But he's a very good athlete. Like I said, great route runner, gets great separation. The thing that makes me nervous about him is that most of the high-level plays that I saw from him at Ohio State were when things broke down. There's nobody in the neighborhood of him. Whether it was C.J. Stroud or Justin Fields, they extend the pocket, and nobody can cover him that long. Then he winds up behind the defense, wide-ass open, and he can do some of that in the NFL. I don't know how well Baker Mayfield could take advantage of that. He's a decent enough deep ball thrower. The big thing is this is somebody that's going to get open on a regular basis and not force Baker into such tight throwing windows. This is somebody you're going to have to worry about at all times. The injury to Jameson Williams at Alabama makes him probably the first receiver off the board. In mine, it was Drake London, and he would be my one, but Garrett Wilson would be my two.
All right. Devontae Wyatt, defensive tackle out of Georgia, goes to the Browns at 44 overall in the second round.
Very good pass rusher. He grades as somebody that's going to come in as a day one starter on the interior. For Cleveland, you look at him inside of Myles Garrett or inside of Jadeveon Clowney, and now the pass rush is terrifying. You did not get much. I mean, I know Malik McDowell was a good story. You did not get a lot from him. He did not grade well last year.
Mm-hmm.
The reclamation story in Malik Jackson, neither one of them were very good. So now getting somebody that can actually rush the passer from the interior, it makes Garrett better, of which he was the number one graded edge rusher in the league last year. So not much better he can be. But I do think it would help Jadeveon Clowney. Immediate starter and one of the few needs. Cleveland doesn't have a lot of needs. They can take some luxury picks, and that's what Devontae Wyatt would be.
Yep, just a new generation starting on that defensive line. But you think Jadeveon's going to be brought back?
I do. I think he wants to be in Cleveland, and I think they want him in Cleveland. Okay. I could be wrong on that. He could have some X-sized expectation of what he's going to make. I don't think it will be drastically more than it was last year. Wouldn't be shocked if he had to sign another one-year deal, but I do think it will be in Cleveland.
Okay, at the 78th overall pick, the first of two picks in the third round for the Browns, this is where you have another Georgia guy, George Pickens, wide receiver from Georgia.
This is another outside receiver. This is a big-bodied receiver. This is a red zone target. The problem with him, injuries.
Mm-hmm.
If he hadn't had the injury history that he does, he would be a second-round pick at worst. That being said, tore the ACL last year, didn't come back until the very end of the year, had a great catch in the national title game, but that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a lot from last year for you to look at and go, yeah, that's going to work out nicely. The exact opposite of what I said about Garrett Wilson is true with George Pickens. He is physically gifted in how big he is. He's not a bad route runner. He needs to be refined. He does a lot of the best things he does is at the point of attack at the ball. So the fear is he's not going to be able to separate. You're going to have a reasonably big corner to deal with him. For me, the ideal is some rotation of Peoples-Jones, Jarvis Landry in the slot, Garrett Wilson running some out of the slot, George Pickens on the outside. As I said, if it wasn't for the injury, he would go drastically ahead of this. But Baker Mayfield's deficiencies are going to have to be made up for by pass catchers. They don't have that now, and with those two selections, they would now have that. Absolutely.
2 out of the first 3 picks being spent on wide receivers to help out Baker Mayfield. How about another one on the defense? An edge rusher at 98 overall in the 3rd round, Michael Clemens out of Texas A&M.
Very raw. And I'm not exactly sure what position he's going to play in the NFL. I think he actually grades better as a 3-4 defensive end, but he's very scheme versatile because he is so raw. He's not crazy fast. He's not crazy quick. He's 6'5", 270, good pass rusher, holds up against the run, needs to improve some of his technique, and really needs to become a better tackler. But I could see saying the same thing I said with Devontae Wyatt. This is a kid that could slide in pass rush situations as a defensive tackle, could be out there as a run stopper on the end to spell Garrett. And with the linebackers back behind him, I think this would be a quality piece that could come in and play pretty quickly.
2 picks in the 4th round for the Browns, 105 overall, Chad Muma, linebacker out of Wyoming.
One of the players I'm asked the most about. He has a lot of physical limitations because he is not overly athletic, but he might be the smartest player in this draft. He is never out of a play. He is always in the right position, and I think he slides in nicely next to Njoku, who they took in the 2nd round last year. The linebacking core for Cleveland is good, but I do think they need the instinctual player like this. Owusu-Koramoah is just so unbelievably athletic that you can put him anywhere. Mm-hmm. Muma is a 3-down, to me, is a 3-down linebacker in the NFL. The thing that would make me a little bit nervous, he's going to have somebody athletic, like Njoku, next to him, because he's going to run about a 4.7. He's not, athleticism is the problem. He can play any spot at linebacker. There's really not one that he grades at better than the others. You're just going to have to deal with some of the physical limitations, which is why he goes in the 4th round as opposed to the 2nd where I've seen him go. I think that would be too high, and I really like the kid. You just have to understand this is a thin 4.7 linebacker in the NFL. So you're going to have to get by on instinct.
If you're spending so much on your quarterback, you can't really afford to spend a whole lot on your backup quarterback. So I guess, Case Keenum can get cut and they can save some money this year and then pick up a quarterback in the draft. How about the 2nd pick in the 4th round, 116 overall, Brock Purdy, the quarterback out of Iowa State.
There are not a lot of beauties in the eye of the beholder quarterbacks in this draft class. Mm-hmm. Brock Purdy might be the only one I see. He's never going to press the ball downfield really well, and he's not a great athlete, but he's good. There's a lot of raw to like here. Played a ton in college. Started 47 games, almost 3,200 snaps. The thing that makes me nervous about Purdy is that I never saw him take that leap in spite of the fact he had the best running back in this draft class and one of the 3 best tight ends in this class. And good receiver talent. The line wasn't terrible. I just never saw that next step. Now, I don't love Matt Campbell, and I never really have. I don't necessarily know. He's a very good recruiter. I don't know how good of a developer of players he is. A lot of good players have come out of the school. I just feel like Brock Purdy took a leap after his sophomore year, and then it stopped. But there are people that believe he is the only quarterback that will go in day 3 that has actual legitimate starter upside in the NFL. Would take time. He is an older quarterback coming into this class, but he fits in Cleveland nicely, and I think if something happened to Baker Mayfield, let's say they don't bring back Case Keenum, whatever the case may be, I do believe he could come in and play right away, and he wouldn't be a liability. It wouldn't look like Jake Eason or Jake Fromm. He would look like a competent NFL player. I would say his ceiling is probably high-level backup, not bad, but below average starter in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. At 154 overall in the 5th round, Mikael Wright, cornerback from Oregon.
This is proof positive that being a really good athlete will get you drafted in the NFL, because I don't actually know what this kid does. He's not a very good cover guy. He's a average to below average tackler, but he is hyper athletic. Gonna run in the 4.3s, 5'11", about $180. Very, very fast. Provides in the return game. Does a lot of things, but he's so raw, which is weird because he played a lot in college. But he played in a weird defense. Played in the Pac-12 where you don't see a whole lot of high-level competition, so you have to be careful with how you grade him. USC was not his friend. That tape is not fun to watch. Developmental, starts on special teams. There's just so much raw ability. I can't coach you to be a 4.35 guy. I just can't. And he has enough natural ability. Really needs to refine the technique. Probably a practice squad guy to start with the hope that you can unlock some potential.
In the 6th round at 191 overall, Grant Calcaterra, a tight end from SMU.
I am probably higher on this kid than most. He's very raw. He's not very refined. The hands are good. The body frame is good. He's 6'5", 240, and is going to run about a 4.6. So there's a lot of athletic upside here. The only problem is that he gets exactly if he gets open, the first person to touch him is going to bring him down. Mm-hmm. Doesn't break tackles, not going to be a mauler as a blocker. To be honest with you, he strikes me as David Njoku. Very athletic and a good receiver, but very raw and needs some time to develop. But in the right system, I think he could be a good back end 1, high end 2 tight end in the NFL and provides great value here.
So the Njoku can walk in free agency and they'll be fine just slotting him in.
Don't pay him, for the love of God, don't pay him.
In the 7th round, 220 overall, Cordell Volson, a tackle out of North Dakota State.
He is a house.
Yeah, he
6'7",
is.
320. And there is some good tape on him. The level of competition makes you very nervous because he is very heavy-footed. This is not the dancing bear offensive lineman. But I do think he could come in and play if pressed early. Something happens to Conklin, whatever the case may be. He can slide in and play on the right side. I think he can play some guard. The technique needs to be refined. But there's a lot to like. There was tape of him where he just mauled people. Good arm length. I do think he projects as a tackle. He's just a tackle that you're going to have to give some time. And in this draft, there's a merit to that because there are a lot of players that will be drafted in these 256 selections that are raw linemen that in most drafts would not be touched. They would be back end, low priority, undrafted free agents. I'm not saying that about Cordell Volson. There's just going to have to be a lot of work put into him. And as long as you've got Bill Callahan, I feel reasonably sure that this is probably the best place that you could put him because that's the kind of lineman that he wants. But there's a lot of raw.
The next year of Baker Mayfield is the decider. This is the decider if they're going to move on with him, sign him to a contract extension or not. So getting him weapons at the top of this draft makes a whole lot of sense. Garrett Wilson, George Pickens, 2 of the first 3 picks of the draft. I think he added some great ones to the defense as well there, Flostradamus.
This is a very good draft class. If you agree with these picks, if you don't agree with these picks, or if there's a player you would just like to know how they fit with your Cleveland Browns, feel free to comment those in the comments. I answer them every day. And this is the first of 3 mock drafts I do. I do this one. I do another one after the combine and free agency slows down, and then another that comes out the 2 days directly preceding to the 2022 NFL Draft. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you get all of our team-by-team 7-round mock draft content and more draft content throughout the Draftmas season here in the Sportsocracy. I'm Tank Spencer. He's Jeremy Greene, and we will see you next time.